back to another video on the channel. So in this video we'll be implementing the remaining part of the full stack Hinge dating app. So we have just a few more parts that are remaining. That is basically to implement the roses part. That is, if at all you press on the button, that is get roses, you need to implement this kind of model design, and once you press on select, you need to implement the payment part as well. And apart from that, once you go to the send like screen, we need to implement the send rows as well, and even over there we need to implement the animation part. So these are the only two things remaining. So let's implement this in this particular video. So if you find this interesting, please hit the like button and do subscribe for more such content. So let's get started. So let's first of all let's check if at all we have installed React Native models. So I'm just gonna check in my package.json. Yeah, so React Native models are not installed, so let's install that. So here I'm gonna say yarn add React Native models, and then let's press on enter. Alright, so this has been installed. So now I'm just gonna come back to my screen, that is your main app.js, and over there we need to include our model portal. Here I'm gonna say model portal, import it from React Native models, save the file, and then let's come back to our profile over here. So I'm just gonna say a profile screen, and here first of all let's initialize the model state, right? So here I'm gonna say const model visible comma set model visible is going to be equals to use state. Initially it's going to be set to false. All right, use state is already imported. Yeah, so now we need to send these two things, that is these two variables, into our component, because that particular button which says roses, okay, use context doesn't exist. Yeah, it does exist. Save the file. Yeah, so over here if I press on the roses button, I need to be able to open that model up. So we need to send these two variables into this particular component, that is get more. So here I'm going to say model visible is going to be model visible, and set model visible is going to be equals to set model visible. So let's format once, and yeah, let's first of all initialize the on press on the get more. First of all, let's destructure the values over here, that is model visible and then set model visible, and where we have that button, that is roses, that is over here which says get roses or just roses. So we're going to initialize a pressable over here, and even over here as well. Here I'm going to say on press, take in a function, and we're just going to say set model visible to be of the opposite of model visible. That means if it's false, it's going to be true. If it's true, it's going to be false. So now let's initialize our design for the bottom model. Let's first of all save the file. I'm going to scroll down, and just below your, let's say, safe area view, we could initialize that, or I don't think safe area view is present. Okay, this is the components part. This is our return block. Yeah, so just below this, let's say I'm going to initialize my bottom model, import that from React Native models, and to this we're going to pass in a bunch of options. So I'm going to say swipe direction, it's going to be an array of directions, that is up and then down. So yes, apart from swipe direction, we're going to have your swipe threshold, that is going to be equals to 200. So apart from swipe threshold, we're going to have the model animation value. So here we're going to say new animation, new slide animation, import that from React Native models, that is your slide animation, and over here we're going to pass in an object, and we're going to say slide from bottom. Let's format once. Yeah, so apart from your model animation, we're going to have your visible, that's going to be equals to model visible. If this is true itself, our model is going to be visible. If it's false, it's not going to show up. So on touch outside, we need to close the model. So I'm going to say take in a function over here, and we're just going to say set model visible to be the opposite of model visible. So yes, apart from that, I'm going to say on hardware back press, taking a function, and here we're going to say set your model visible to be of the opposite of model visible. And apart from that, we're going to initialize our model content that's going to come inside your bottom model. So I'm going to say model content over here, and within this we're going to have a view. So before that, we're going to provide some basic styling to this. So I'm going to say style over here, let's say width of 100%, and we're going to say height of auto. So height of auto in the sense how much of a design we have, only up to that height it's going to take up, that is your model height. Okay, so yeah, it says failed prop. Okay, I'm not sure why it's giving that error. Let's continue designing. So I'm going to say view, and within the view we're going to have a text which says catch their eye by sending a rose. I'm going to say text over here. So we're going to say catch their eye by sending a rose, and save the file. Let's pass on the style to the text, and then let's try to open up the model. So here I'm going to say font size of 26, and then font weight of, let's say, bold, and apart from that I'm going to say text align of center. Save the file. Let's press on the roses button. So there you go, we are able to see that design being shown on the screen. So since we have passed the height of auto, it's only taking up as much space it needs to take up, right? So yeah, we are able to see the bottom model being shown, and as and when we add more design, it's gonna grow up to the height. So yeah, below this particular text we're gonna have another text that is with another piece of value. So here it's gonna say roses are always seen first, and are twice as likely to lead to a date. A purchased rose never expires. So yeah, this is the text. Let's format once and pass on the style to this. So here I'm going to say style. So this in turn is going to have, let's say, margin top value. So margin top of, let's say, 16, and then a text align of center. So I'm going to say text align center. Apart from that, font size of 15, and then color initially of this color code, that is 181818, and we're gonna provide in a line height of 22. Save. Yeah, so as you can see, we're able to see that text being shown to the screen. So now below that we're gonna have a horizontal list of designs that is for showing all of the roses part. So I'm just gonna initialize my design over here. So that is just below your text, we're gonna have our scroll view being initialized, and I'm just gonna get my data for the roses. So I'm just gonna scroll up and then paste it over here. Let's say at the top of the page, let's say right over here. So it's gonna be basically an array of objects, each containing a unique ID, each containing a plan for the roses, as well as the price also. Okay. So with the help of that, we're gonna start designing our bottom model. So here within the scroll view, I'm just gonna map over my roses. So here I'm gonna say roses dot map. So for every item and the index over here, I'm gonna render a pressable. Within the pressable, initially we're gonna have a text, and this text in turn is gonna show up your plan. So I'm gonna say item.plan, save the file. Okay, and for the pressable, let's pass on the key. It's gonna be index. So as you can see, we have 3 plans, so we are able to see that being shown onto the screen. And apart from that, I'm just going to get the link for the image. So I'm just going to paste it over here. I'll be sending the image in the description in the form of a drive link. You can use that. So make sure to import image. It's already imported, I guess. Save. So as you can see, we're able to see those 3 things being shown onto the screen, which is good. And this is the style for the image, that is width of 60, height of 60, and then a margin vertical of 15. And here I'm just going to say text So here I'm just going to get the rupee symbol, and I'm going to paste it over here, and it's going to be item.price. Save. So there you go, that's looking good. So now the next step is below the text we're going to have that pay button being shown which says select. So here I'm going to say pressable. Text over here, it's going to say select. Save the file. Yeah, so as you can see, that's looking fine. Let's start off by styling the text, not the text, the pressable, which is your button. It's going to have this particular background color, that is 80080, and it's going to have some internal spacing, padding of 12, border radius of 22, margin top value of 10, and a specific width of 110. So format, and for your text that's there over here which says select, this in turn is going to have a text align of center, a color of white. So save the file. So as you can see, we are able to see that button which is looking fine. So let's start off styling the pressable, that is the outermost one. So style over here. So yes, this in turn is going to have a padding of 12, and then justify of center, align items of center as well. This is going to have a border color, that is E0 E0 E0, and then a border width as well. So border width of 0.6 and margin right value of 20. This also is going to have a slight border radius of 12. So here I'm going to say border radius of 12. Apart from that, a width of 200. Save. So there you go, we're able to see that being shown correctly, and we just need to provide one thing for the scroll view, that is horizontal, because we want it in a horizontal fashion. So before that, let's start styling out our text part. So this in turn is going to have font size of 20, and we're going to have a font weight of bold. Save. Yes, and for your this text which says prices, I'm going to say style, font size of 15, and a font weight of 500. So there you go, that's looking fine. So now let's come back to the scroll view. Here I'm going to pass in horizontal, and I'm going to say show horizontal scroll indicator, and I'm going to set it to be false. Save the file. So there you go, just like that, it's looking fine. And we're going to pass in the content container style over here. I'm going to say content container style, margin top of 30, since it's almost touching the top part of the text. So margin top 30, and then margin bottom of 30 as well. Save. So there you go, this is your entire design for your roses part, right? So this is complete. So now the next step is, once the user presses on the select button, we need to implement the payment part, and then we need to add 3 roses into the roses array of that particular person, right? So before that, we need to initialize a endpoint for this as well. So let's head back to our index.js file, and then we're going to initialize endpoint to purchase a rose. So let's come back over here. So let's scroll to the bottommost part, and over here I'm going to initialize my post method for the roses part. So here I'm going to say app.post. This in turn is going to say, let's say payment success. You can pass in any value over here. I'm going to say payment success for now. So this in turn is going to have your async method with the request and the response in the callback. Here I'm going to initialize my try and then catch block, so catch of error. Here I'm just going to log a console message initially. So I'm going to say console.log error with that particular error message, and here we're going to say return result.status of 500 .json with a message being internal server error. And yeah, let's continue building up the try block, right? So in the try block, so first of all, for purchasing a rose, we need access to three things. That is your user ID, your plan ID, as well as your roses to add. So let's get all of those things from the request dot body. So here I'm going to say const user ID comma plan ID, and then roses to add is going to be equals to request dot body. And first, the next step is we need to get the user's data. So we need to fetch the data from your DynamoDB. So for that, we need to initialize our user params. I'm going to say const user params is going to be equals to an object, passing your table name. This is going to be users, and the next is we need to pass in the key, which is going to be your user ID that's coming from the request.body. We're going to match based on that particular key. Apart from that, we're going to make use of the send method. So I'm going to say const user data is going to be equals to wait DynamoDB client dot send. It's going to be the new get command. This in turn is going to take in your user params. So here first of all, we're going to check if at all we do have the data. So for that, I'm going to say if not of user data dot item, then in that case over here I'm going to say return result dot status of 404 dot json with a message being user is not found. And now the next step is I'm just going to access my user. So I'm going to say const user is going to be equals to user data dot item, and here we're going to update the user's roses, right? So I'm going to initialize my roses first. I'm going to say const roses is going to be equals to user dot roses. Alright, apart from that, I'm going to say const new roses is going to be equals to, let's say, number of roses that was there previously, and then we're going to add the roses that the user has purchased. So I'm going to say dot plus number of roses to add. So once we have calculated the new roses that needs to be updated in the backend, we need to update the likes attribute with your new value. Not the likes attribute, we need to update the roses attribute with your new updated value, that is your new roses. So for that, I'm just going to initialize my params over here. So I'm going to say const updated rows params is going to be equals to table name. It's going to be users, passing your key. This in turn is going to be your user ID, and we need to pass in our update expression over here. So here we're going to say target set. This is your field, that is roses, is going to be equals to your new roses. That's it. And below this we need to pass in our expression attribute values, not the names, expression attribute values. This in turn is going to be an object, and here we need to pass in the value of new roses, right? So here I'm going to say new roses, and here we're going to say new roses. That's it. So after doing that, we're going to make use of the update command. So here, let's format once. Here I'm going to say await DynamoDB client dot send new update command. This in turn is going to take in your updated rows params. Alright, so apart from this, once we have made the change for the updated roses, we need to store the payment details as well, that is in a new payment table. So here for that, I'm just going to say const payment ID is going to be equals to crypto dot random uuid. And apart from this, over here we're going to say const payment params is going to be equals to an object, passing your table name. Here we need to create a new table, that is payments. So I'm going to say payments over here, and below this I'm going to say item. We need to pass in our payment ID that is in the form of a string, that is going to be payment ID. Apart from that, we're going to pass in a user ID, that is who has purchased the rows. This also in the form of a string, and then user ID is coming from the request.body. Apart from that, we need to pass in our roses purchased. So here I'm going to say roses purchased. It's going to be in the form of a number. So here I'm going to say roses to add. So yes, apart from this, let's come back over here, and here we're going to say await or DynamoDB client.send. We're going to say new put item command. This in turn is going to take in your payment params. So yes, that's it. Apart from that, we're just going to say return result.status of let's say 200.json with a message being payment is successful and your roses are added or roses is updated. Okay, so this is your endpoint for adding a rose, right? So let's save the file. So let's come back to our screen, that is our profile screen, and where we have the select button. So for that, we're going to initialize on press event, and we're going to call this endpoint. So let's head back to our profile screen over here. So let's pass on the on press for this particular function, that is on press, that is the pressable, taking a function, and we're going to say pay of your item. So let's go to the top and then define the function, that is pay. So here let's say const pay is going to be equals to async method. This in turn is going to take in your item. Here I'm going to say set plan or to be of your item. Initially, let's give the state for the plan part. So here I'm going to say const plan comma set plan is going to be equals to use state, initially an empty string. So let's scroll down, and yeah, after setting the plan, that is based on whatever plan you chose over here, that is either 3 roses, 12 roses or 50 roses. Is I think I need to even change your price. It's currently given same for all the things. You can make sure you change for each of the plan. So yes, after we set the plan to be of the item, I'm just gonna use my alert. So I'm just gonna paste in my alert over here. So we're gonna have two button alert box. So initially we're gonna say buy roses and then buying the number of roses, and once you press on OK, we need to initialize the payment. So let's define the function, that is initiate payment. So I'm gonna say const initiate payment is gonna be equals to async function, and here let's give our try and then catch block. So try catch of error, and here I'm just gonna give a error message. So I'm gonna say console.log error with that particular error message, and inside your try block I'm gonna initialize my basic conditions, that is if at all there is no plan, or if at all there is no plan.price, and then in this case I'm just going to say return, and here I'm going to initialize my bunch of options for the Razor payment gateway part. So we've already defined these options while implementing the subscriptions part, so it's going to be pretty much similar. Okay, so the amount is going to be plan.price.split with the help of empty strings, taking the first value in the array multiplied by 100. That's going to be a price to be paid. Okay, after initializing your options, here I'm going to have my try catch block initialized. So try catch of error console.log error processing the payment. With that particular error message. Inside your try block, I'm going to initialize my data. I'm going to say const data is going to be equals to await. It's going to be razor page checkout. Import that, and I'm going to say dot open of your options, and you can actually log your data over here. I'm going to say payment data is going to be equals to data. Yeah, so after processing the payment, we need to hit the endpoint. So after that, I'm just going to say const roses to add is going to be equals to plan dot go into the plan, apply the split, and split with the help of an empty string, and we're going to take in the first value from the array. Okay, I don't think there is a dot over here. Yeah, we are doing this because as you can see, we have 3 roses, 12 roses. We just need the value 3 from that particular string, because in the backend part we need to add it to the initial roses that were earlier present. So let's say if the roses that were present earlier was 1 and they purchased 3 roses, it needs to be 1 plus 3 and not 1 plus 3 roses, right? So that's the reason we're just trying to get in the number from that particular string. So with the help of the split method, we are trying to implement that. So this would give us, let's say, 3 based on whatever plan you chose on. And apart from that, let's pass in the plan ID. So for now, I'm just going to hard code it. You can actually, make use of a random string. And yes, apart from that, I'm going to initialize my response. I'm going to say const response. It's going to be equals to await axios dot post method. This in turn is going to, take in your base URL. I'm going to say base URL. So it's going to be / payment success. Alright, so this in turn is going to, take in your user ID and your plan ID, and it's going to take in your roses to add. And here we're going to say if your response dot status is going to be equals to 200, then in this case we're going to say set model visible to be false, and we're just going to give a log message now. I'm going to say console.log order created or roses purchased successfully. You can pass in either of them. So order created successfully. Yeah, that's it. Let's format once, save the file. Let's actually try to check if at all our alert message is opening up or not, right? So yeah, let's first of all make sure alert is imported. Save. Let's press on select. Yeah, so there you go. Buying roses, buying undefined. So we need to look into that. So that needs to be 3, right? So first of all, let's try to log the plan over here. I'm going to say console.log plan and then plan over here. So save. Yeah, so there you go. We do have that. So we're going to say plan.plan.split of, yeah, actually it should give us the correct result, but not sure why it's not exactly opening. Cancel. Let's give it one more try. Yeah, so there you go. Now it's working fine. So buying roses and then buying 3 roses. So once you press on OK, we need to implement our razor payment gateway. Let's give that a try and let's press on OK, and let's focus on the backend part, that is if at all there is any error over here. Let's press OK over here. So there you go. We are able to see the razor payment gateway being open. So let's try to implement the payment. So as you can see, the price is currently being shown 283.33. I'm going to choose UPI over here and then enter my number, and I'm going to say at OK HDFC and continue. Yeah, so once the payment is done, we should see that payment successful page, and after that we need to hit the endpoint, that is your for payment success. Let's hopefully see if that actually works. So it's redirecting. Yeah, so we do have an error. Okay, so okay, it says numeric value not a number is not allowed. Okay, for some reason it is erroring out. So first let's check which part of our backend implementation is not working because we have two things to implement. One is to add the roses and one is to submit the payment part. Okay, I think let's come back to our index.js. Also, you need to create a payments table. For me, it's already created because I'm using my previous applications table itself. Let's head back over here. Make sure you press on payments. So make sure you create a payments table over here. And these are my previous payments, I guess. I'm just going to delete this for now. And actions, delete. Let's check where exactly that error is coming from. That is over here in the payment success endpoint. So let's scroll down and then let's check where we have gone wrong. So payment ID is a string, okay. Roses to add as a number, user ID is also a string. Alright, so okay, I don't think we actually need your plan ID actually, because we're not using that anywhere. Let's try to remove that. Okay, so yeah, we need to remove that in the front end as well. So let's come back to the profile screen. That is over here. Let's remove this one. Save. Now let's check if at all the update of the roses have been worked for the user. So I'm just going to check out my logged in users profile, that is this one, and JSON view. So where we have the roses part. So there you go. It's worked absolutely fine. Initially it was, let's say, 1. We purchased 3 and now it is 4. So this part worked absolutely fine. I think we got the issue while updating the payments part. That is not over here in the index file. So this worked absolutely fine and we got the issue over here. That is, yeah, I think the spelling of payments is wrong. That's the issue. So payments, and apart from that, payment ID is passed on. Even your user ID is coming correctly. And roses purchase is going to be n, and then roses to add, even that is coming correctly fine. And then we're going to say new put item command of the payment params. Yeah, I think it should work now. Let's format once. So I've just removed the roses from the previous user that was initially 4. I've just made it 1 to again check if at all it is working fine, and even the payments also should work fine, right? So let's implement this. I'm just going to say 3 roses and buying 3. Okay, so as you can see, it's implementing the payment part. Let's press on UPI. Let's enter a number, and here I'm going to say add OKHDFC Bank and then continue. So hopefully this time we should be able to see the payments also being stored as well as the roses being updated. So let's try to check that out. So there you go. It worked absolutely fine, and as you can see, auto created successfully. So you can actually show a kind of alert box to the user saying that once the payment is successful, you can say that the roses have been purchased successfully. Let's check out in the backend part. So initially the payments, we should have our first payment being initialized. Let's reload once. So there you go, item returned is 1. This was done just now because I had deleted the previous ones. So payment ID, this one, roses purchased 3, that's correct. User ID is the person who has purchased it. So this is working absolutely fine. And even the user's details, we are able to see that getting updated as we saw earlier. Only this was erroring out, which is now fixed as well. That is the payments part. So yes, this part is done. So now the next step is we're going to initialize the endpoint for sending a rose for a particular person. So let's come back to our index.js file. This is going to be the final endpoint for the entire project, that is to send a rose. Here I'm going to say app.post method. It's going to be / send rose. Here it's going to have the authenticate token middleware. Apart from that, async with the request and the response in the callback. Here I'm going to say const user ID comma liked user ID. So it's basically going to be similar to your liking of a profile, right? So I'm going to say const user ID comma liked user ID, and then we need the image, the comment, which is initially null, all right, and we're going to have the type, and we're going to have the prompt as well. So prompt is going to be equals to request.body. All right, so here we're going to check first of all if my request dot user id is not equals to my user id. Then in that case we're going to say return result dot status of 403 dot json with a message being unauthorized action. All right, and apart from that we're going to check if the required parameters are provided. So I'm going to say if there is no user id present, then return result dot status of 400 dot json with a message being missing required parameters. And then let's save. Yeah, so apart from that we need to fetch the current user data. So let's initialize our try catch block. So initially console.log error with that particular error message, and we're just going to say return result.status of 500 with a internal server error message. Inside your try block, initialize your user params. So I'm going to say const user params is going to be equals to an object. Your table name is going to be equals to users, and your key is going to be equals to your user id. And over here I'm going to say const user data is going to be equals to await dynamodb client dot send method, and this is going to be new get command of your user params. Okay, and here I'm going to check the condition, that is if at all there is no user data dot item, then we're just going to say return result dot status of, let's say, 404 dot json with a message being user is not found. So here let's try to access our user data. So I'm going to say const user is going to be equals to user data dot item, and here I'm going to say const roses remaining is going to be equals to user dot roses, and here if your roses remaining is less than or equal to 0, then in this case we're going to say return result dot status of, let's say, 403 dot json with a message being no roses remaining to send. All right, and yeah, apart from that the next step is we need to decrement the roses count. So I'm going to say const new roses, so new roses count is going to be equals to roses remaining minus 1. Okay, and here I'm going to initialize my decrement roses params. So decrement roses params is going to be equals to an object, and here passing your table name, that is going to be your users, passing your key, which in turn is going to be your user id. Apart from that, your update expression, here we're going to target the roses. I'm going to say set roses to be of your new roses count. Okay, that is your new roses itself. So I'm going to say new roses is going to be equals to new roses, and we need to define this in the expression attribute values. So I'm going to say expression attribute values, pass in your new roses over here. So new roses, this in turn is going to have in the form of a number, that is going to be your new roses count, that is this one. So apart from that, I'm going to initialize my new string stating that this is a category of rows. So I'm going to say const category is going to be equals to rows, and I'm going to say await dynamodb client dot send of your new update command of your decrement rows params. And apart from that, pretty much it's going to be the exact same thing of yours code that we had written while liking the profile. So I'm just going to get the code for that. So I've just pasted in the code for the remaining part. So initially I'm going to initialize my new like, which is going to say user ID, type, and then category. And we're going to check if at all the type is going to be equals to image. And we're going to check if at all the image is already present. Then we're going to say new liked image is going to be equals to image. Else if your type is equals to prompt, we're going to check if we have all of the required details for the prompt, prompt.question and the prompt.answer. If at all we do have that prompt, we're going to say new like.prompt equals prompt. And if at all the comment is present, new like.comment is going to be equals to comment. And we've also passed in the category also over here so that we could identify that this is a rows, right? So apart from that, this is going to remain the same itself. That is whatever we have initialized in the like part, because we are essentially sending a like, but we are sending it in a rows format. So this code is going to remain as is. That is, we need to update the liked users received likes array, and here we need to update the current users liked profiles array, right? Apart from that, we're just going to say result.status of 200 with a message saying rows liked successfully or rows sent successfully. Save. Yeah, so this is your final endpoint for sending your rows to a particular person. So this part is done. So the final step that's remaining is we need to implement the animation part over here. That is, let's say on any other image, we need to implement the animation once you press on send like, and we need to implement a different kind of animation once you press on send rows as well. So let's implement that. That's going to be your next step. That is once you press on, or that is once you head over to your send like screen. That is going to happen over here. So here first let's try to implement the animation for send like, and at the later part we're going to implement the animation for send rows. So before that, I'm going to initialize few states that is required for your animation part. So I'm going to say const is animating, comma set is animating is going to be equals to use state. Initially it's going to be false, and here I'm going to say const profile visible, comma set profile visible is going to be equals to use state. It's going to be set to true initially. So we're going to follow the same thing that we have followed in the like screen once we used to press on the cross button. The similar animation we're going to follow it over here as well. So I'm going to say const, this was the next one. So const rows, comma set rows equals to use state, initially false. And this is for your profile. So const profile, comma set profile is going to be equals to use state. It's going to be true. So one is for your rows, one is for your liking. So we need to have two different animations for these two different functionalities, that is while sending a rows and then while sending a like. So initially let's do it for the like part. So I'm going to write the same code, that is whatever we have written while disliking a profile, right? So here I'm going to say set your profile visible to be the opposite of whatever the value was previously. So I'm going to say not of previous. Okay, and here I'm going to say set is animating to be of true, and here we're going to start the animation. I'm going to say animated, import animated from React Native. It's going to be dot timing. This in turn is going to take in your animation value. I don't think that is initialized. Let's initialize that first. I'm going to say const animated animation value is going to be equals to new animated dot value of 0. We also need to initialize the scale. I'm going to say const scale is going to be equals to use state, and here we're going to say new animated dot value of 1, and here we're going to pass in the value 0. So let's come down to the function. So here we're going to say animated dot timing of your animation value. So here we're going to pass in the two value, that's going to be equals to 1. So if moving the profile, we are going to adjust the position. Here I'm going to say duration, that's going to be 1000, and I'm going to say easing is going to be easing, import that from React Native dot ease, and I'm going to say use native driver, and then I'm going to set it to be true. So yeah, that's it. And here I'm going to say start the animation dot start, taking a function. Once everything is done, here I'm going to say animation value dot set value to be of 0 again, and I'm going to say set is animating to be false. Apart from that, I'm going to say set your profile visible to be true. All right, let's give a format once. Yeah, so after the animation, this is going to remain same itself. That is your token part, that is your functionality for liking. Okay, so no change in that part. So this is your conditions or your code for the animation part. Let's format once. So if you remember, we had also written a use effect for the animating part. So let's write that is going to happen below your like profile. Here I'm going to say use effect. So this is going to be dependent upon your is animating. Import use effect from your React. So here I'm going to write the condition, that is if is animating, then here I'm going to say animated dot timing. This in turn is going to take in the scale. We're going to pass in the two value, it's going to be 1.3, and I'm going to say duration is going to be let's say 600. Again, we're going to pass in the easing value, that is going to be easing dot ease, and finally we're going to pass in our use native driver, and we're going to set it to be true. Here I'm going to say dot start, else we're going to say we need to reset the scale when the animation is going to finish. So I'm going to say animated dot timing, access your scale part, and here I'm going to say two value, that's going to be equals to 1. Passing duration, that's going to be 600, and I'm going to say easing, that is going to be easing dot ease, and here also use native driver, set it to be true. And finally here I'm going to apply the dot start method. So start. Yep, so that's it. Let's format once, save the file. So let's scroll down, and I'm gonna write some condition in the return block, right? So below the safe area view, so here I'm gonna say if profile visible, and I'm gonna show this entire design over here. Let's format once, save. And below this condition, I'm gonna write the condition for is animating. If this is true, and I'm going to initialize my view over here. I'm going to say view. So this in turn is going to have your animated dot view. So I'm going to say animated dot view. This in turn is going to have the image. I'm just going to get the link for my image as well as the styles for this particular one. Alright, so just paste it in the code for the style part as well as your animated view, and I've initialized a transform that's going to take in the scale, and here I've just imported my image. I'll be sending the image whatever I use. The style is given, that is width of 70 and then a height of 60. So let's format once and then let's try to save the file. Let's first of all check if at all we have the animation working. So I'm just going to comment out the code for the try catch block as of now. Let's try to save the file. Let's try to press on the send like button. So there you go, just like that, it's working fine. So if this works, automatically our like also should work absolutely fine. So let's come back over here, save. So I'm just gonna press on send like. So there you go, we have that animation, the liking is done, and then we come back to the previous profile, and then we're able to see the new profile being shown onto the screen, okay, which is looking fine. So yeah, this part is done. Let's implement the next part, that is your roses part, okay. So for that, we need to initialize another use effect that is for the animating part. So below this, I'm going to say use effect. This in turn is going to be dependent upon your rows. Here again, we're going to write in similar conditions. I'm going to say if rows is selected, that means if the animation is in progress, I'm going to say animated dot timing, access your scale, and here we're going to say to value is going to be this one, that is 1.3, and duration is going to be 1000, that is 1 second probably. Easing, it's going to be easing dot ease, and I'm going to say use native driver, set it to be true. Alright, here I'm going to say dot start. Else again it's going to be similar as the previous use effect. I'm going to say animated dot timing, access your scale, and here I'm going to pass in my to value, that's going to be equals to 1, and I'm going to say duration is 1000, and easing is going to be equals to easing dot ease. Okay, and here I'm going to say use native driver, and I'm going to set it to be true. And here let's pass on the start method. And now let's scroll down and then initialize the onPress function on the send rows button. Okay, so let's say on any of the profile we can press on that. So yeah, let's press on, I mean not press, let's initialize the onPress. This is send like, this is send rows. Where did that go? Yeah, probably for this particular one we do have a pressable initialized. Here I'm going to say onPress, just send for now. Let's go to the top and then define your send function. So let's say over here I'm going to say const send is going to be equals to async function. Here again I'm going to do the similar thing, that is for the profile part. I'm going to say set profile to be the opposite of whatever it was previously. Initially it was true, we're going to set it to be false because we are trying to show the animation once we press on the button. Here I'm going to say set rows to be true. So previously for the like we had set the animating to be true, as you can see over here. So as you can see, set is animating to be true. Here we are trying to set is rows to be true, and apart from that I'm going to say animated dot timing. This in turn is going to take in your animation value. Here I'm going to pass in my to value, that is going to be 1, duration 1 second, that is 1000 milliseconds, and easing is going to be equals to easing dot ease. Apart from that, use native driver, set it to be true, and here I'm going to say dot start. So format once initially. So after everything is been completed, we're going to say animation value dot set value is going to be equals to 0, and we're going to set rows to be a false, that means animation is going to be set to false. Apart from that, set your profile to be of your true. That's it. So after we have implemented the animation part, we're going to hit the endpoint. First let's implement this. So the animation part is going to come only at this particular image. Instead of the image we're going to show the animation, right? So for that, let's come to the return block. So here first of all we're going to check if at all root.params.type is going to be equals to image. Then here we're going to write the condition, that is if at all profile is true, and show the image. So for the previous one we were checking for the entire thing, so here we're just gonna check it for the this particular image. Okay, so where is the design? Over here. So profile and show your image, and below this we're gonna check if at all rows is set to be true, that means if at all animated is true, and here I'm going to initialize my animated.view. So animated.view. So here I'm going to initialize my Lottie view. So I'm going to say Lottie view, import that from Lottie React Native. This in turn is going to take in the style. So I'm going to say style over here, pass in a height of 300 and then a width of let's say 300. Apart from that, align self of center, and we're going to pass in let's say some margin top value of 40. and we're going to have justify content of center. So format once. Yeah, so apart from justify content center, we're going to say align items of center as well. And for the lottery view, we're going to provide some options. That is basically initially your source that needs to be provided. That is the design to show. I'm going to say require over here. So here I'm going to go into my assets folder and I'm going to access my rows.json. I'll be sending my entire assets folder. You can make use of that. I think it's already sent in the previous video description. You can use that. And even I'll be sending in this particular video's description as well. So apart from your source, you're going to provide your autoplay value. That's going to be set to be true. And loop, this also is going to be set to be true. Then we're going to provide the speed. That's going to be 0.7. So format once. And for the animated.view, let's pass in the style. So here I'm going to say a position of absolute. Okay. I'm going to provide a width of 100% as well as a height of 100% as well. Height of 100%. Furthermore, justify of center. Align items of center as well. And we're going to pass in the transform value. So format once. I'm going to say transform. This in turn is going to take in your scale. Okay, that's it. Yeah, so this is your entire design for the showing animation. That's once you press on the rose button. Let's save the file. So let's press on the rose button. We should be able to see the animation. So press. Okay, something happened, but we were not able to, show the animation part. Probably let's give that one more try. Yeah, so there you go. Now it's working absolutely fine, and we're able to see back the image. Okay, so let's press that again. So there you go. We're able to see that rows being shown. So now we're going to implement the functionality for sending your endpoint, that is calling the endpoint. Let's scroll up over here. That is in the send button, in the send function, not the button. So here initialize your try catch block. So try catch of error, and here let's initialize our token. Here let's give the error message. So console.log error, that particular error. Inside your try block, I'm going to say const token is going to be equals to await async storage dot get item of your token. Here I'm going to initialize my payload. I'm going to say const payload is going to be equals to an object user ID. That's going to be equals to root dot params dot your user ID. That's how we access it. Then your liked user ID, that also is going to be equals to root dot params dot your liked user ID. We're going to have the image, that is going to be equals to root dot params dot your image. Apart from that, your comment, if it is present, I'm going to say comment and comment dot trim is not equals to an empty string. If this is the condition, then I'm going to say comment dot trim, else it's going to be null. Okay. Apart from that, we're going to pass in the type, whether it's a prompt or whether it's an image. So I'm going to say root dot params dot your type. Alright, so this is your payload. Then let's initialize the response part. I'm going to say const response is going to be equals to await axios dot, it's going to be the post method. Initialize your base URL. So here I'm going to say dollar base URL. It's going to be / send rows, and here I'm going to pass in my payload. Here let's initialize the headers. which in turn is going to take in your authorization. Here we're going to pass in the bearer and your token value. The next step is we need to handle the successful response. So here I'm going to check the condition, that is if my response dot status is going to be equals to 200, then in that case I'm just going to say navigation dot go back, and here I'm going to give a console message saying that rose is sent successfully. With that particular response dot data. Let's format. So here I'm going to check, that is if my error dot response and error dot response is going to be equals to 403. This is when the roses are currently empty. Then in that case I'm going to say navigation dot navigate to your subscribe. Else I'm just going to show the error. Format, save the file. So now let's actually show the correct values of the roses. So currently it's hard coded, if you would remember. So if I would show you that part, so where is that? Yeah, over here I guess. Yeah, so there you go. Currently it's hard coded. Here we need to show the dynamic value, that is the value that the user has, right? That is the number of roses they have in their list or in their profile. So for that I'm just going to initialize my user info, that is from my context. I'm going to say const user info is going to be equals to use context of your auth context. Let's import your use context over here from React, and to access the roses it's going to be user info dot roses, right? So here I'm going to say user info dot roses. So once I save the file, it should be equals to 4, because this current user had initially 1, we purchased 3, so it's going to be 1 plus 3, that's going to be equals to 4. So user info dot roses. So there you go, just like that, this changed properly fine. So in the backend it is 4, we had already checked that, and it's currently showing correctly over here. So let's save the file. So now let's give this a try. So once I press on send rows, we need to send a rows instead of a like, and instead of the and in the backend part, instead of a like, we are going to show the category value saying that this is a type of a rows. Okay, so I'm just going to press on the send button over here. So there you go, animation is done, we are liking it, and we come back over here, we're going to show the next profile in the list. Okay, so yes, this part is also working absolutely fine. So we're able to send the likes, we're able to send the rows as well, and we're able to come back to the previous screen, and then we're able to show the next updated profile onto the list. So yes, this part is working absolutely fine. So let's actually go into the backend and then check if all the roses have been updated correctly. So we need to be seeing 3 roses now, because we have spent 1 rose, or we have used 1 rose. So let's come back over here, and I'm going to choose my users collection. Let's reload once so that we could see the updated changes. And this is the first user that's currently logged in. So JSON view, scroll down, and there you go. And as you can see, roses was initially 4, now it's become 3 because we've used 1 rose. Okay, so yeah, this part is working absolutely fine. Let's try to reload once, and let's try to go into the send like screen. So let's head over to our send like screen. So we should be able to see the roses as 3. As you can see, previously it was 4, now it's 3 because we have used the rows. So that's correctly updating fine. So yeah, we have completed designing the entire application, that is from the starting point to the end point. That is whatever we have thought according to our designs over here. So we have started off with your auth screens. We had around 8 to 10 auth screens, and we were able to register the user. And furthermore, we implemented different kinds of functionalities, that is how to like a profile, how to show all of the received likes, and implemented also the real-time chat functionality, that is by making use of your socket IO. And we also designed your profile screens and designed different subscription screens as well. And with the help of the Razor payment gateway, we were able to implement the payment part as well, and then store all of the details in the backend part. So yeah, this was a large project, and if you found this interesting, please do the like button and do subscribe for more such content. And yes, I think that's it about this particular project. So let's see the next project, and then thank you for watching.